Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to be looking at the male reproductive system. Now this is aimed primarily at A level and IB because at that level that's when you study reproduction in a bit greater depth and a knowledge then of the anatomical parts and functions is required. So this is one of two videos. This one is the male and then I'm going to do the female reproductive system in similar fashion. So let's start at the bottom. I'm going to work my way around this clockwise. So we're going to start over here with the foreskin. Now the foreskin is a sort of protective covering, if you like, of ultimately the gland's penis. Now the penis is an organ used to deliver sperm to the neck of the cervix. So what I'm going to do is just in this diagram, I'm going to label all the parts and then I'm going to say what their job ultimately or jobs are. So we've got foreskin and the gland's penis in place. Then if we continue going clockwise, we come to the urethra. Now, the urethra carries semen and urine to the outside. It's the opening at the end of the penis. If we continue up, we see that we've got a little bit of what's called spongy tissue. And then as we go further, what we come to is a label. I don't know if it's entirely clear, but it's this, and I'll colour this in blue here, or I'll label it in blue. This part here. Now that part there is prostate or prostate gland. Now the prostate gland is really important. It secretes an alkaline fluid that's actually about 20% of the total volume of semen. And that alkaline fluid neutralizes the acidic secretions of the vagina, and that is essential to sperm motility. So now we've got the prostate gland in place. Let's move a little further up, and we're going to look now at this here, which is known as the vas deferens, also known as the sperm tube. So I'll colour that in just to make that a little bit clearer. So we're talking about this tube here. I won't colour the whole thing in, just a portion of it. Now let's look at the job of that vas deferens. Now that stores sperm up to several months and then it propels them by peristalsis towards the urethra during ejaculation. Now peristalsis is a wave-like contraction. Normally you hear about peristalsis when you think about the gut and moving food along the gut and digestion. It's that same kind of wave action, propelling the sperm towards the urethra during ejaculation. Then we can put in place here a pubic bone, really just for completeness sake. Now let's continue across, and you can see there's another sort of arrow, if you like, pointing to the right of the pubic bone. It's this one just here. That one I think is also pointing to the vas deferens, the sperm tube, so we can ignore that one. Let's continue. This one here is the ureter. So we've worked our way around and we've now come to the ureter. Now the ureter carries urine from the kidneys to the bladder. Kidneys act like a filtration unit, and I've done videos on kidney structure and function. So they end basically by saying that we get this concentrated urine, or maybe not concentrated depending on the water concentration, coming from the kidney down through this ureter into the bladder. So logically, the one after the ureter would be the bladder. Now the bladder stores urine. That's its main function. That's the function of the bladder, to store urine. Now underneath the bladder, and I'll colour this in, I think, yellow, just because sometimes it's quite difficult to see in diagrams. So we're looking at this structure here. That structure in yellow that I've just coloured in is what's known as the seminal vesicle. So let's put that in place. Seminal vesicles. Now the seminal vesicles secrete an alkaline viscous fluid which makes up this time about 60% of the volume of the semen. So 20% of the volume was from the alkaline fluid produced from the prostate gland. This time we've got the seminal vesicles secreting this fluid that makes up 60% of the volume of the semen. And that fluid typically contains fructose. It's a respiratory substrate for sperm motility. So the sperm use that fructose as an energy source to enable them to move and be mobile. Now if we move a little bit lower, and again I'll colour this one in, I think purple, just to highlight which part I'm talking about. That little purple dot that I've coloured in is referred to as the Cowper's gland. Now the Cowper's gland, again another secretion here, produces a mucus secretion, but this one helps to lubricate the penis during intercourse. So we've got the Cowper's gland that helps to lubricate the penis during intercourse, and you can see that Cowper's gland is going to release that secretion, and it's going to pass, if I just do this by red dots, it's going to pass through to this urethra. So you can see it's going to act as a lubricant there. Let's look beneath the Cowper's gland, and what we have is a structure known as the Epididymis. D-I-D-Y-M-I-S, the Epididymis. And I think again this one we'll just colour in just to make it clear which part I'm referring to. So it's this part that's almost looking like it's sitting on top of the testicle, which we'll label in a moment. So that Epididymis is the site of sperm maturation. So basically it's where sperm mature. Now that begins actually within the testicle in what's called the seminiferous tubule, but the sperm actually mature in the epididymis, and it also stores sperm for up to about 4 weeks before they get reabsorbed. Now the final, got 4 labels left. The next 2 are really just more for orientation purposes. So we have the rectum here, and then that's followed by anus. But the 2 more really important things to label here, and at the very, very bottom, we have the testes. Testicle, singular, testis, plural. Now the testes contain tightly coiled seminiferous tubules, and they produce sperm in a process called spermatogenesis. Now the interstitial tissue actually produces testosterone. So within a single testicle, you've got the main bulk of the tissue producing testosterone, this interstitial tissue, and within the seminiferous tubules, in a process called spermatogenesis, we get sperm production. And then finally, we can see that those testes rather, are contained within this bag, if you like, this scrotum. And the scrotum is really important. It's a sac of skin that suspends the testes outside of the body. Now that's critical because it suspends them outside the body at about 3 degrees lower than body temperature. Sperm are very susceptible to changes in temperature, and a high temperature can actually destroy them. So the testicles are contained within this sac of skin outside of the body where the temperature is a bit lower. So there we have the male reproductive system and the key structures in place and the functions of them. And in another video I'm going to go into more detail about the process of spermatogenesis, but this is just to outline the key parts, structure and function. Okay, hope all that helps.